Lilith Lucifer Sophia as the first Sotah Demiurge demon is not Mother Earth Gaia the Holy Spirit Virgin Mary Magdalene the Primal Mother. Tractate Sotah deals with the ordeal of the bitter water, the woman committing of adultery, as well as other rituals involving speech. In most editions this tractate is the sixth in the order of Nashim, and it is divided into 9 chapters. In relation to the bitter water trial, there are 2 important points to be taken away from the Lilith legend. First, Lilith was the archetype of the Sotah. In refusing to submit to God, she became the first wayward adulterous being who went astray. As such, we would expect her to receive curses parallel to the Sotah. And she does. As we shall see, a careful study the Serpent's account in Genesis reveals that she gets the essential curses of a defiled Sotah. She eats dust, has smoke come out of her mouth, her belly suffers curses, from the curse of the dragon of always having her period, for making innocent even barren and eating her children while still in her womb, and her seed is slain by a promised seed. She does everything to destroy and steal their promise. Furthermore, even her curses mirrors the innocent woman of the trial. She suffers pain in birthing her promised seed, but this seed prevails over the curses, and she is saved. The second major point to take away from the Lilith legend is that her sprung origin bug of the foot of the soul serpent mythos confirms the notion that golems can be animated from dust and water fashioned into the forms of humans. Lilith demonstrates that demonic or evil spirits can inhabitant the golems through these ingredients and imbue the animated golem with an image that is not of God, in which case the demonic creature is not fully human, but more beast. Lilith as the first Sotah Antichrist impostor God Demiurge impulse demonic entity posing as a lamb Holy Spirit Mother Earth Gaia and God to deceive. Lilith's legend is ancient and precedes Judaism. Her first mention is found in a Sumerian king list which dates from about 2400 BCE. That list states that the father of the great hero Gilgamesh was a Lilu demon as in Lilith demon. The first substantial written record of Lilith comes in the epic Gilgamesh and the Hula Tree, circa 2000 BCE. In that epic the demoness Lilith and a snake haunt a great tree situated in a holy garden of the gods she broached. As we shall see later, this tale has strong parallels with Genesis story of the Garden of Eden and Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. Lilith appears by name only once in the Bible. This comes in Isaiah 34, which describes her as a bird-like demon who dwells in an utterly desolate land once at the ocean's floor. She is intimately fused with a snake, and she is a killer of younglings seed of Eve, the ones of the chosen seed. There is also a reference to Lilith in Proverbs 30 under the title of Aluka. Proverbs' heavily mystic passages speak of 2 types of barren women given over to the power of Aluka. Aluka serves as a source of cursing and death to one barren woman as Eve, the Virgin Mary Magdalene, Gaia, the Holy Spirit, Hagar mother of Ismail, the Great Mother, and the catalyst in granting a promised seed to the other. As we shall see, Aluka has strong parallels to the cursing agent in the bitter water trial of the Sotah. According to the Zohar, this agent is the spirit of Lilith Lucifer Sophia Jezebel demon. In the Middle Ages legends became prevalent that Aluka was the mother of astrays. Lilith was a female bird-like winged monsters whom were said to devour children and drink their blood. Astrays are the earliest known incarnations of the modern vampire legend, and their similarity to Lilith are obvious. Lilith makes a handful of appearances in the Talmud, circa 400 CE. Her mentions are painfully brief, as the writers assume she is known entity to the reader. One Talmudic writer warns that she comes in secret at night to men in their sleep, much like a succubus or night hag, to steal semen from them. Another writer holds that she stole semen from Adam in such a manner, and with this she inseminated her first seed. Lilith's legend struck a chord in medieval Christian circles. Michelangelo depicted Lilith as the serpent in his famous paintings on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and she is likewise depicted as the tempting serpent in a carving on the Notre Dame Cathedral in France. Lilith appears in many other artworks of the era as the serpent. This Genesis evidence supports all the essential facets of Lilith's legend, such as why she is said to be created from mud and muck, and not dust like Adam. It also identifies her as the serpent. The analysis by which this evidence will be developed in this section is probably much the same means by which the ancients originally concluded details of her legend. Based solely on biblical evidence, this analysis makes a strong case for Lilith. And the details of her history and nature surmised from the analysis is remarkably in sync with her most ancient legends, both Jewish and non-Jewish. I have found that a coherent collection of biblical arguments supporting the case for Lilith has been heretofore non-existent in the public domain because she with the children of Satan created worship impostor gods and erased the truth by all means of their identity and corruption and fall upon the world. In fact, the only argument usually put forward, that Genesis speaks of two creation accounts of a man and woman, is almost always presented in an outrageously flawed manner. The faulty argument generally follows the notion that none of the creation events described in GE2 are a recap or retelling of creation events that happened in GE1. Thus the reasoning goes, when GE1:2629 speaks of the creation of a man and woman, and Genesis 2:1822 then speaks of the creation of Eve, the two passages must refer to different events. This simplistic argument is based on outrageously faulty logic. If all of Genesis 2 was read as documenting new events not specified in Genesis 1, then Genesis 2-7 would imply there are also two Adams. Furthermore, there would be two whole planets, each with its own ocean, atmosphere, and biosphere. We must recognize that parts of Genesis 2 do recap Genesis 1, and the Lilith argument must be put forth with more care and much more rigor. Critics of the Lilith legend could argue that if the Lilith legend was true, then why is her existence in Genesis so tenuously written that simply misinterpreting a few verses makes her seemingly disappear from the account? While it is true that for mystical reasons much of Genesis' early accounts of Lilith seem to have been written so as to purposely obscure her role and hide the evidence of her truth and combine her with Christ as a lie and as Virgin Mary as a lie, in Genesis' later text she does play a very prominent and overt role as the Serpent of Eden. The serpent is second in prominence only to Adam himself in the early chapters of Genesis, as she is the bug of the foot of the soul. The prominence of the serpent in early Genesis is demonstrated in several ways. The serpent is the first speaking character other than Adam, GE 3-1. The serpent also has a more dominant role than Eve based on the number of words each speaks and the number of words spoken to each. The serpent speaks 26 Hebrew words, compared to Eve's 22. The serpent also receives more attention from God. The curses God heaps upon the serpent consist of 33 Hebrew words. The curses God inflicts upon Eve takes a mere 13 words. We shall see that there is strong textual evidence in Genesis that the serpent can be safely identified as Lilith, Lucifer, Sophia, the Antichrist. Perhaps the most indisputable evidence is the parallels between God's curses upon the serpent and upon Eve. Part of the serpent's curse is that it and its seed would be locked in enmity with Eve and her seed, and that although the serpent would wound Eve's seed would crush the head of the serpent. This curse clearly establishes that the serpent plays the role of a rival to Eve. Thus the serpent is implied to be a woman. This notion is strongly reinforced by the parallelism between the curses of the serpent and Eve to the bitter water trial. The serpent, in the role of the defiled Sotah, eats dust and is cursed in her belly, and she shall be slain by the innocent seed. Eve, as the innocent woman in trial, shall endure pain in childbirth, but shall be saved by her seed. There is also evidence that the Hebrew for serpent, nakash, cannot indicate a snake, but rather implies. The serpent was a human inhabited as demonic spirits. Job 26 hours 13 minutes and Isa 27:1 identify the serpent, under the title of Leviathan, as fleeing upon wings. This is certainly suggestive of the Lilith legend. Furthermore, Job 26 hours 13 minutes implies that the serpent was created in a manner similar to Adam, that it was fashioned and formed from the dust of the earth into a golem like Adam. This also supports the serpent's identity as Lilith.